The shifting sands of Somali security, allegations of federal troop deployment in Galkayo and the perils of instability. Introduction. The fragile security landscape of Somalia is a perpetual concern for regional and international actors alike. Decades of conflict, state collapse, and the pervasive threat of extremist groups have left the nation struggling to establish lasting peace and stability. Within this complex environment, the deployment of federal troops, particularly in disputed territories or areas with existing inter-clan tensions, can become a highly contentious issue, exacerbating existing vulnerabilities and creating new ones. The recent allegations surrounding the deployment of Somali National Army (SNA) forces in Galkayo, a city straddling the administrative boundaries of two federal member states, Puntland and Galmudug, exemplify the delicate balance of power and the potential for missteps that can plunge already volatile regions into further instability. This essay will delve into the intricacies of the alleged federal troop deployment in Galkayo, examining the multifaceted factors contributing to the situation, the historical context of interstate and inter-clan relations in the region, the potential consequences of such deployments, and the broader implications for Somali security and state-building efforts. The Galkayo Conundrum, a city divided. Galkayo is a city unlike any other in Somalia. It serves as the capital of the Mudug region but is politically divided, with its northern part administered by Puntland and its southern part by Galmudug. This administrative schism is a legacy of Somalia's decentralization and federalization process, which, while intended to grant greater autonomy to regions, has also created pockets of overlapping authority and jurisdictional disputes. The division of Galkayo is not merely administrative, it often reflects underlying clan affiliations and historical grievances. For years, the city has been a flashpoint for clashes, primarily between clans associated with Puntland and those aligned with Galmudug. These conflicts, often rooted in resource competition, political power struggles, and historical animosities, have led to significant displacement of civilians, disrupted economic activity, and created a climate of perpetual insecurity. The presence of distinct security forces, often loyal to their respective regional administrations, further complicates the situation, creating a microcosm of Somalia's broader security fragmentation. The allegations of federal troop deployment in this already divided city thus land on fertile ground for suspicion and fear, threatening to reignite dormant conflicts or escalate existing tensions. Allegations and reactions, a spark in the tinderbox. The specific nature of the alleged federal troop deployment in Galkayo remains shrouded in some ambiguity, often characterized by differing narratives from various stakeholders. Reports have suggested that SNA units, ostensibly operating under the federal government's mandate, have been present in or near areas within Galkayo that fall under Puntland's jurisdiction. The Somali federal government typically frames such deployments as efforts to bolster security, combat al-Shabaab, or ensure stability in volatile areas. However, for the Puntland administration, such movements are often perceived as a violation of its territorial integrity and an encroachment on its autonomy. Puntland, one of Somalia's most established federal member states, has historically been assertive in defending its boundaries and governance structures. Consequently, any perceived intrusion by federal forces, especially into areas where its own security forces are dominant, is met with strong opposition and accusations of federal overreach. The reactions to these allegations have been swift and often acrimonious. Puntland authorities have vehemently denied the legitimacy of any federal military presence within their recognized territory without prior consultation and agreement. They often invoke the Somali Provisional Constitution, which delineates the powers and responsibilities of the federal government and the federal member states, arguing that such deployments violate these constitutional provisions. Conversely, federal government officials, if they acknowledge any troop movements, tend to downplay the significance, framing them as routine security operations or responses to intelligence reports. This divergence in narratives highlights the deep-seated mistrust between the federal government and some federal member states, particularly Puntland, and underscores the challenge of achieving a unified security architecture in Somalia. The media and social media have amplified these narratives, often fueling public anxiety and contributing to a polarized environment where verifiable information is scarce. Historical context, a legacy of mistrust and conflict. To understand the gravity of the Galkayo situation, it is crucial to consider the historical context of interstate relations in Somalia and the persistent challenges of federalism. Somalia's post-2004 federalization process was a complex attempt to decentralize power and address the grievances of regions that felt marginalized by a centralized government. However, the implementation has been fraught with difficulties, leading to constant negotiations, power struggles, and occasional armed confrontations between the federal government and various member states. Puntland, which declared itself a state in 1998, has long been a key player in this federal dynamic, often advocating for a more confederal arrangement that grants it significant autonomy. Galkayo itself has a history of inter-clan violence that has been exacerbated by political divisions. For instance, clashes between the Dulbahant and Warsangali clans, which have strong ties to Puntland, and the Harbour Gedir clan, predominantly aligned with Galmudug, have erupted periodically, often over control of resources, political influence, and historical land claims. These internal clan dynamics are deeply intertwined with the broader political landscape. Federal troop deployments, whether intended to de-escalate or not, can easily become entangled in these complex clan politics, inadvertently supporting one faction over another and thereby deepening existing divisions. The perception that the federal government is taking sides in local clan disputes, or undermining the authority of a regional administration, can have devastating consequences, undermining the very legitimacy of the federal state. Perils of instability, the ripple effects of deployment. The alleged federal troop deployment in Galkayo carries significant perils that extend far beyond the immediate city. Firstly, it risks reigniting or intensifying interstate tensions between the federal government and Puntland. Such disputes can paralyze federal governance, divert resources from more pressing security threats like al-Shabaab, and undermine the fragile unity of the Somali state. Puntland's robust security forces, developed over years of relative stability and self-governance, are unlikely to yield to federal incursions without significant resistance, potentially leading to direct confrontation between federal and regional forces. This would be a catastrophic development, shattering the illusion of a unified national army and projecting an image of a state at war with itself. Secondly, the deployment can exacerbate clan tensions within Galkayo and surrounding areas. If one clan perceives the federal forces as favoring another, it can lead to retaliatory actions, displacement of civilians, and a breakdown of law and order. The humanitarian consequences of such escalations can be severe, leading to food insecurity, lack of access to essential services, and further entrenching the cycle of violence. Civilians often bear the brunt of these conflicts, caught between various armed actors and lacking protection. Thirdly, the presence of federal troops in disputed or sensitive areas can be exploited by extremist groups like al-Shabaab. These groups thrive on instability and division. They can use such incidents to portray the federal government as an occupying force or as ineffective in its governance, thereby recruiting new members and expanding their influence. A fractured security apparatus, with federal and regional forces in conflict, is far less capable of mounting a cohesive response to the persistent threat posed by al-Shabaab and other militant organizations. The international community, which has invested heavily in supporting Somalia's security sector, would likely view such internal conflicts as a major setback, potentially impacting aid and security assistance. Furthermore, the perceived overreach of the federal government can undermine the legitimacy of the entire federal project. If federal member states feel that their autonomy is being eroded or that the federal government is acting unilaterally, they may become less cooperative, more insular, and even contemplate secessionist movements, further fragmenting the nation. The delicate balance of power, carefully negotiated over years, could be irrevocably damaged. The trust between the center and the periphery, essential for any functioning federal state, is severely tested by such unilateral actions. Navigating the path forward, towards sustainable security. Addressing the multifaceted challenges posed by alleged federal troop deployments in Galkayo requires a nuanced and strategic approach that prioritizes dialogue, de-escalation, and adherence to established constitutional frameworks. A fundamental prerequisite is enhanced communication and coordination between the federal government and federal member states. Mechanisms for consultation on security operations, especially those that may affect the territorial integrity or security responsibilities of member states, must be strengthened and consistently utilized. This includes respecting the sovereign rights of each federal member state within its defined jurisdiction. The Somali Provisional Constitution provides a framework for federalism, and all actors must recommit to upholding its principles. This involves clearly defining the roles and responsibilities of the federal government and federal member states in security matters, including troop deployment, counterterrorism operations, and law enforcement. A clear understanding of these boundaries can help prevent misunderstandings and reduce the likelihood of unilateral actions that could provoke conflict. In areas like Galkayo, where inter-clan and interstate dynamics are complex, security operations should ideally be conducted in consultation with and, where possible, in collaboration with local and regional authorities. This approach fosters local ownership, builds trust, and ensures that operations are sensitive to the unique socio-political context of the area. Investing in community policing initiatives and reconciliation efforts can also help to address the root causes of conflict and build sustainable peace from the ground up. Moreover, strengthening the Somali National Army (SNA) as a truly national institution, representative of all Somali clans and regions, is paramount. This involves ensuring that recruitment, training, and deployment processes are transparent, equitable, and free from clan-based favoritism. A professional and apolitical SNA, loyal to the federal government and committed to protecting all Somalis, can serve as a stabilizing force rather than a source of division. International partners have a crucial role to play in supporting these reforms, ensuring that military assistance aligns with the goal of building a unified and inclusive national army. Finally, the international community must adopt a cautious and coordinated approach to supporting Somalia's security sector. Aid and training should be channeled through mechanisms that promote dialogue and cooperation between federal and member state security forces. A unified approach, rather than fragmented initiatives, is essential to avoid inadvertently exacerbating existing tensions. Focusing on capacity building, good governance, and rule of law at both federal and state levels will contribute more significantly to long-term stability than simply increasing the number of troops on the ground. Conclusion: the allegations of federal troop deployment in Galkayo serve as a stark reminder of the enduring fragility of Somalia's security landscape and the inherent challenges of state building in a post-conflict environment. Galkayo, a city divided by administrative boundaries and deep-seated clan loyalties, is a potent symbol of these complexities. Any unilateral military action in such a sensitive locale risks reigniting interstate tensions, exacerbating clan rivalries, and creating opportunities for extremist groups to exploit the ensuing instability. The path forward demands a commitment to dialogue, adherence to constitutional principles, and a concerted effort to build trust and cooperation between the federal government and its member states. Only through inclusive governance, respect for regional autonomy, and the professionalization of the security sector can Somalia hope to navigate the shifting sands of its security challenges and forge a more stable and prosperous future. The success of Somalia's state building hinges not on the imposition of power, but on the delicate art of consensus building and the unwavering pursuit of national reconciliation.